I'm going to stay up here. Of course. All right. You don't want to make a grand entrance or anything? You want to jump off one of these? What do you think? No, I'll skip that. I love this place, Governor. We need you. I love it. I love it. We'll put that there. So you're going to of course. Just make sure everybody gets situated. Yeah. So we're putting Chicago after Benji gets there, which I'll orchestrate. Like you did. Yeah, at least I do. Especially you gave a hard coming to hug him, and he was like, I watched. Congressman, we need you here. You good? We need you right here, right now. Good afternoon. Paterson is where Hamilton set the stage and where history was made. Speaking of history, this very building, Governor, is named for Thomas Rogers, who invented the steam locomotive. And as Benji Wimberly will tell you, Samuel Colt invented the gun that won the West right here in Paterson. And I'd be remiss, Senator Poe, Assemblywoman Sumter, if I didn't mention John P. Holland and the submarine that was invented in Paterson. When you want to talk about innovation, Paterson's the place where it happened, Tim Sullivan. That innovative ecosystem where we leveraged our legacy assets, and we're looking to do the same today. Legacy assets turned into legacy projects for Paterson. Dr. Heldobler, if you drive downtown Paterson, you will see beautiful bones. Now it's time to put meat on those bones. And today we're proud to announce that whenever Governor Murphy is here in Paterson, it's a really good day for the city of Paterson. So that snow wouldn't stop him. He said, I got to do it this week. I got to do it now in my adopted home, his home away from home, an honorary Patersonian. As a matter of fact, we're going to punctuate that because we got his very own I Love Paterson button. So ladies and gentlemen, oh, he already has it. Gosh darn it. Bob Garashi beat me to the punch. But speaking of punch, today we're having a successful conference at William Paterson University, and it's aptly entitled Propel Paterson. And we believe this historic announcement is going to do just that, propel Paterson forward, thanks to an administration that knows Paterson is a priority, and that if we're going to write a success story, we need our governor to be a co-author. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me profound pride to introduce to you our governor, our friend and honorary Patersonian, Phil Murphy.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you all. Like you, I only wish Andre had a little bit more energy. Yeah. I've actually, as of about 3 or 4 months ago, I've prohibited Andre from giving me that back slap because he broke 3 of my ribs last year. Jerry, you know what I'm talking about, man. In any event, good afternoon, everybody. It is a great day to be here, and thank you for your patience because we had wanted to do this earlier in the week, and we had a storm emergency. So thanks for reconvening and pulling this together again. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your incredible welcome to Paterson, as always, for your friendship, for your support, for your leadership. I've been here many times over the past number of years, and I'm excited about this city's prospects and for what we can accomplish by all of us working together. I want to give a particular shout out to the New Jersey Community Development Corporation for hosting us, and Bob, in particular to you personally, your leadership, personal leadership, your team's leadership. You got a lot of board members here. I don't know what this community would be without you or what this state would be without you. Thank you, Bob, for everything you did. Right? I had thought part of the reason why President Trump put in a state of emergency was to keep Congressman Bill Pascrell in Washington. He somehow escaped. Congressman, you've been the mayor, you've been an assembly member, you're now in the House, and I don't know where we would be without you standing up, speaking truth to power. Congressman
Yes.
Bill Pascrell.
Yes.
The murderer's row to my right, Senator Nellie Poe, Assemblywoman Shavonda Sumter, our coach, Assemblyman Benji Wimberly. Thank you for your leadership to each and every one of you. And if that weren't enough, the CEO of the Economic Development Authority, the Tim Sullivan. We got Council President Maritza Davia. We got Councilwoman Ruby Cotton in the House. Thank you for your leadership. Freeholders, members Bartlett, Best, Duffy. Sounds like a law firm, guys. And President William Paterson, and thank you, sir, for your leadership. Honor to have you here with us, Bob. So up and down this historic street, we were just looking at them out the window with Bob, are century-old buildings that once housed the mills which gave Paterson its nickname as the Silk City. Those days have since passed by. But there is no reason why these buildings cannot be re-envisioned and repurposed to be part of a strong future for Paterson through a smart and targeted historic preservation tax credit program. There is no reason that this block of Spruce Street cannot again be bustling with people coming to work or where they come home to or where they can visit a new restaurant or a gallery or a cultural center. We are just blocks from the Paterson Great Falls National Historic Park, which is an anchor. Route 80 is right within reach. Everything needed for success, most importantly, the people of this great community, is right here. It was with buildings like these that Paterson and other cities in our state were front of mind when we proposed enacting a historic preservation tax credit. It will have an annual cap of $20 million in total, and a per project cap of $4 million. And it will be, this program would cover up to 16% of the cost of rehabilitation, and it would kick in when a project is completed, so we can make sure it's completed. It will also provide, and this is important, it will provide a bonus that set aside 20% for projects that set aside 20% for the creation of things like affordable housing, or which include an incubator, or a co-working space where local small businesses can grow. It will have high standards of transparency and accountability and will ensure that workers on a project earn prevailing wages. Our urban landscapes are full of buildings just like these, and we have done a very poor job of incenting their reuse. So let's do this. I go to work many days in Trenton. Trenton's another community where you see great bones, great potential, but not enough investment. And hopefully this can turn that story around just as it can turn the Paterson story around. We are, by the way, we're not George Washington on this. We're one of only 15 states that don't currently have a historic preservation tax credit. And as a result, we're poorer for it. We woefully lag our peers, both in terms of the number of historic redevelopment projects undertaken and the total dollars that are spent on those projects. I'll give you a couple of facts. In 2017, there were only seven historic redevelopment projects undertaken across the entire state with a total investment of $1.1 million. All those 7 projects combined, $1.1 million. Meanwhile, in Virginia, which has a historic preservation tax credit, more than 104 projects pumped more than $340 million into that state's economy. In New York, 71 projects put more than $1 billion to work. Massachusetts had 47 projects that put nearly $400 million into the state and local economies. Pennsylvania, 39 projects, $330 million of investment. And that was just in the year 2017. And on, even in Kansas, bless their hearts. So Kansas had, for a long time, did not have a state historic preservation tax credit. Over 21 years, it had a total of 50 projects. They then put the state historic preservation tax credit in place on top of the federal, and over the next 8 years, they went from 50 projects over 21 years to 542 projects over 8 years. My view is if they could do it in Kansas, we could do it in New Jersey.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Dorothy. Great minds think alike. A little bit of Wizard of Oz humor there if you're missing us. New Jersey is as rich with history as anywhere in our country, and in places like Paterson, frankly, even more so. It is up to us to ensure we don't tear down that history, but rather we embrace it to move forward. Spruce Street is just one street, but it represents the promise we find in so many streets in all of our cities. As we look to rebuild our economy, it is time for us to put these buildings back to work so we can put people back to work and build our future economy in the very same buildings that contributed to our rise as an economic power. So thank you all for being here. It is now my distinct honor and privilege to introduce our fighting congressman, the one, the only, the singular, Congressman Bill Pascrell.
You know, Mayor, you talked about putting meat on the bones. It kind of woke me up. I just got off the train. I was sleeping on the train. I'm going to go home and go back to sleep. This is a great day. The sun is shining not only on this building, the sun is shining on Paterson, New Jersey, thanks to Andre and the governor, Bob Garazzi, for keeping this district moving so that we don't have to wait 2 years every time something happens. There are things happening here. So this historic preservation tax credit is very, very important as part of the piece that we need to make our city whole. This is a destination, this historic district. And we want to make it more of a destination so that the city becomes more of a destination. Many times we do not see the economic consequences of our actions. And I was looking over, and I had studied the issue pretty carefully because it could happen any place. The Amazon situation in New York. You know, many of those congressmen over there are really angry as to what has happened here. And I'm sure that the folks who are against it had good intentions. But when I study the $3 billion in public money that was going to be invested, it generates over $25 billion. Because you're talking about not only over 25,000 employees, you're talking about the restaurant, you're talking about the tailors, the soda store down the corner, the pharmacy. You're talking about all of these folks being able to earn more money as well in their businesses. So, I don't know, Governor, if you're on this today. Knowing that you are, you probably made 3 calls already. But who knows? And we're not in competition with New York. We are in competition with ourselves usually. So I want to thank this governor for the newly proposed historic preservation tax credit for our state. Tax incentives are an important tool for transforming spaces for housing as well as workspace. As New Jersey's only member of the Tax Writing Ways and Means Committee, I've been working on such incentives for many years in the Congress. In 2017, I fought to preserve the federal historic tax credit, which was going to be eliminated in the budget that year. Imagine that. Which originally proposed they were going to do away with it altogether, not just drain it down. We know the importance of these incentives. And by the way, over $84 billion has been invested in that federal tax incentive program. I helped secure the historic tax credits to revitalize the People's Bank in Passaic. Money came from that federal program. This monument was erected during the depths of the Depression, when America still built big things. The building's transformation will go a long way to revitalizing the great city of Passaic. A similar tax incentive at the state level will go a long way to rejuvenating communities so they can secure a more prosperous future. I'm grateful and thankful for Governor Murphy's proposal, because I know there are many places here in Paterson that could benefit hugely from this kind of incentive. The New Jersey Historic Tax Credit will allow projects to apply for funding after being evaluated by state agencies and receive funding where it is needed. And I understand, Governor, that the protocol and the rules will be pretty much mirror the federal ones, and so we know that it'll be strictly adhered to. Yep. Sites including affordable housing or collaborative workspaces will receive bonuses. Availability of and access to affordable housing is one of the foremost challenges of our time. This common sense economic development incentive is a terrific step forward for the state of New Jersey. My friends, I want you to remember this day, because this governor is committed to provide this incentive, and I want you to understand that we will watch every step of the way and be helpful in trying to put this into action in tangible evidence. We are now in the center of what we think is the destiny of Paterson, New Jersey, the Historic Center. We didn't do this to put purple ropes around buildings. We did this so that people will use those buildings, use these streets, use these pathways, where America grew up here in the Industrial Revolution. I mean, this is not just history that we go back and dust off the pages to read. This is our history. This is our parents, our families. And thank you, Governor, for giving this opportunity to even push further. And thank you, and have a great weekend, everybody. God bless.
God bless you. Thank you for that. Let's get up for Congressman Bill Pascrell. Amen. Thank you, sir, and thank you for fighting for our interests every day in Washington. It's now my honor. There are triumvirates in a number of legislative districts around the state that really catch your eye, and you say, wow, that's impressive. There's none more impressive than the legislative team that we're honored to be with today. Beginning with, it's my honor to bring up Senator Nellie Poe.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Governor. Thank you, Governor Murphy. First of all, let me just say I'm so happy to see our congressman here. We've been watching you on the national level and all the incredible work that you're doing, and truly you have been a real fighter and a spokesperson for us. Mr. Mayor, I know that your pounding in the back is only clearing, making sure that all our lungs are clear, and so make sure, keep a distance. I have a cold, but actually I'm so very happy to be here with our incredible team. As it's already been said, Paterson is certainly is a city that is rich in history, culture, and natural assets. We have, and you will see, and you will hear more about, we have an incredibly vibrant downtown and historic district. But today's action will certainly help to make sure that that goes even further. Nevertheless, we are not even close to realizing our potential, and that, as you've heard earlier in the opening remarks of Mayor Saya. You know, Governor, you talked about the historic tax credits. And we know, and our team, our delegation, the 35th delegation, certainly understands and knows that that has been in existence for quite some time. However, the difference is you put money where your mouth is. Yep. Right. You actually have appropriated some significant amount of funds. And I know that we have our Passaic County delegation here, our freeholders, and they will tell you with the incredibly historic and the vibrancy of our historic sites and all of the locations that we can probably use just in Paterson alone, and certainly all around, all $20 million of it. But we know that it will be a start, right? And we're very happy to see you will probably get applications from every one of our municipalities that are absolutely, eligible for that. But we are very happy that we're here. We're happy to be supportive of this. We believe it's so very important. You know, encouraging the repairs of historic building is crucial for a city like Paterson, as I've mentioned, that boasts the distinctive century-old architecture, but is in desperate need of capital investment. Capital investment generates, as you've heard the governor speak about, generates economic activity, creates jobs, rehabilitates housing stocks, and improves the quality of life. We have seen the benefit of major state and private investments. You've mentioned some of them throughout the state, but in Camden alone, you know that that's made a huge difference right there. Now it's time to focus the state's attention to where? Paterson. Yeah, Paterson needs that. Paterson needs that infusion. As in other historic cities like in New York and Philadelphia, we in Paterson can benefit from the conversion of our historic vacant properties into useful commercial and residential spaces. We know that, we understand that we need to bring in development in order to really, truly revitalize our downtown and our entire city. And the way for us to start is right here with this particular program. So, Governor, thank you so very much. Thank you for making Paterson also the place where you would make that announcement. So, right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Well done. God bless you. Thank you. Yeah, we're not here by accident. That's a very fair point from Senator Poe. This is one of the communities that we think is purpose-built and ready for this sort of tax credit. We're going to continue with the Rockin' Team 35 and ask the coach to come on up, Assemblyman Benji Wemberly.
Good afternoon. I thank our governor, and this morning when I got dressed, TJ, I said, you know what, I actually don't have to wear a tie and I can wear sneakers today because I know I'm going to be in the place. But my wife dressed me still, so I had to wear shoes and a tie on. But thank you, Governor. Thank you, our Mayor, Andre Saya, who has the energy of a WWE announcer. I kind of run from him now when I see him coming, like, don't hit me, I'm 54, it hurts these days. Congressman, thank you so much. But when I see this tax credits, I think Barbara and the Boys and Girls Club, Paterson Public Schools, I see affordable housing. And as the chairman of Housing and Community Development, it makes a better life for our young people and our families. So when you talk about housing, when a young person goes to a house that has heating, that has adequate lighting, that has Wi-Fi and things of these natures, their lives are going to be better. So this tax credit, as the chairman of housing, I see this as a win for us. This means that young people are going to be able to go somewhere and have a refrigerator and a stove that works for them in the city of Paterson. Their parents are going to get a job somewhere downtown that they could walk to and maybe not have to commute. So Governor, I thank you so much for this tax credit. And as I look forward to affordable housing opportunities in the future for the city of Paterson, there's no better place to be than historic city of Paterson in our district right now, Councilwoman, Council President. And we thank you so much. Thank you.
And to that point on affordable housing, I mentioned this earlier, and Tim can get into this in a minute, but if you pursue a certain set of programs within a given project, at the top of that list is affordable housing. There are more goodies financially in the project, and so it's very consistent with that. Again, the Rockin' Team 35 goes on. Please help me welcome Assemblywoman Shavonda Sumter.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am privileged to be here. Congressman, I keep you in our prayers as we watch what's happening in Washington, but know that you are there, so I sleep easy, knowing that you will not be quiet and silent in this time of turmoil in our country. To our mayor, who is exuberant, I appreciate his enthusiasm because it pushes us to do more. To the council members, to the freeholders, to the school board members, to our business community, to our higher education community, to our public schools. It's important that we're all here. Our faith-based community has held this city down, for centuries. You're talking about over 300 different faith-based entities in this city, but it's not a rateable. We're now talking about not only quality of housing, but we're talking about being able to walk down the streets, the paths that you all just passed, and not only see a historic jewel come back to life, but also a place where kids and people can walk through and feel proud that they're walking through a safe zone with historic sites that they can look towards. We should feel good about an 8-square-mile city that we're finally at a point of adding to this wonderful quilt of our history. To have this governor be a part of, and Governor, I saw some of the polls that came out. I want you to know that you have 100% approval rating for me, because for me. And I say that because when you're doing the work of the people, when you're taking care of the voiceless and the least of those, your star may not be seen at that time. But it's up to us in this room to make sure that we are the voice that says this governor is working hard, he is present, he is an accountable leader, and he is keeping his campaign promises to not only campaign here, but to deliver resources here. So I stand with this delegation, with all of you, as we continue to build upon those blocks, and let's restore our great city. Thank you. God bless.
That's right.
Good news is I have the vote in the Federal Republic of Shavanda. It is my honor to bring up the guy who has come in with our administration over the past year. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the Economic Development Authority. He did extraordinary work in the same channel in both New York City and the state of Connecticut. Please help me welcome Tim Sullivan.
My ribs are okay. I can take the mayor. Thank you, Governor, for that kind introduction. Mayor, Congressman, delegation, it's an honor to be here with you. I'll be brief. I just want to add one little bit of context into why we think an historic tax credit is such an important part of a development plan. You know, the governor talks all the time and organizes our economic development vision around the notion of a stronger and a fairer New Jersey economy. And those of us who work for him have the privilege of working hard on that every single day. And the way we think we're going to get there is by recapturing our leadership in the innovation economy that is New Jersey's heritage, that is Paterson's heritage. It was said that new ideas need old buildings. And the kinds of restoration projects and redevelopment projects we're talking about are going to be the kind of, that have been the engines of our economy in the past, can be the engines of our economy going forward. And so we think that a historic tax credit paired with a new brownfields tax credit and some of the other things that the governor has proposed as part of a more comprehensive and precise approach to economic development is the way we're going to recapture that leadership in innovation and recapture that leadership in the economy broadly and create a stronger and fairer New Jersey. So this is an important step. It's got Paterson in mind, and we're excited to work with the mayor and his great team to bring these projects to life as we get going. And so we're excited about the opportunities this presents and appreciative of the chance to be here with you today. Thanks.
Well done. Thank you for that, Tim. And again, as Tim references, this is one program that we're proposing. These programs all will have a 5-year life beginning on July 1st, and we're working very well with the legislature to put it all in place. But it's one of 5 different sort of pillars of, we think, smart, forward-looking, transparent, accountable incentives going forward. Deputy Superintendent Susan Perone's in the house. Susan, I meant to acknowledge you earlier. Thank you. God bless you. Great public schools, so God bless you and keep up the great work. I think we're good. I think there are more of us up here than there are of you in terms of. So unless anyone else wants to speak, we'll take a couple of questions before we break. Please, hey, Brennan.
So this tax incentive program is part of your new approach. It's limited, it's focused, it's targeted. Given that philosophy, why offer Amazon $5 billion to come here? People in New York, some are saying they dodged the bullet.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. First of all, the $5 billion offer, which was put forward and put together by the state 2 years ago, rather, in the year 2017, was for Amazon to bring in 50,000 jobs. And so they abandoned that actually in their HQ2 process, and they in fact split the locations, as you know, between Crystal City in Virginia and Long Island City in New York. My plea, very simply, and Amazon has said they're not going to reopen their process, so I'll let them speak for their own processes. And I might add, Amazon already employs double-digit thousands of people in the state of New Jersey. So they see our location, not surprisingly, given the business they're in, as a prime location for them near our ports and airports in the Northeast corridor. But as a general matter, incentives have to be transparent, accountable, and they have to work for everybody. And so it's not enough that they work for the company. They've got to work for the community. They've got to work for the residents. And I think when somebody talks about, at that point, 50,000 jobs, that's a once-in-a-lifetime. That's not a regular day in and day out part of Tim's regular arrows in his quiver. We'll see what it looks like going forward. I continue to believe, most importantly, just like Paterson, the Newark story has never had more promise. It's never been stronger. It is on a trajectory. It is on the rise. Its case has gotten more and more compelling by the day. And I think if a company like Amazon wants to be in an urban community that is on the rise, I hope they're looking at Newark. I hope they're looking at Paterson and communities like that in our state. Please, Brent.
What do you make of the political report today about the Puerto Rico trip with George Cross carrying your picture?
I only read it probably as you. I can't remember who wrote it. Did you write that or not? No. Okay. I read it. Listen, my view is this. I, by the way, watched the Super Bowl with my wife and a couple of our kids. And I'd say this. I don't really, frankly, pay much attention to middle school melodrama. I got elected to represent this state, all 9 million of us, the most diverse state in the nation. I got elected to rebuild the middle class and rekindle the dreams of those like me growing up who looked up, and my family aspired one day to get into the middle class. That's what I got elected to do, and that's what I'm focused on. Somebody, please.
Back to Amazon. Have you been in touch with the company? Will you be in touch, and what is your message?
So we have been in touch, but that you shouldn't read into that either disrespectful of the decision that they made a few months ago, or we just decided to start calling them yesterday. As I mentioned, they're already a major employer in this state. We got to know them not just in their HQ2 process, but also just in the day in and day out. I've toured one of their facilities for a few hours in Middlesex County a few months ago, by example. But we have been in touch, and we're continuing to be in touch. And the message, both privately to them and publicly, both here and in interviews and other statements we'll put out, that the case, the reasons they looked at Newark to begin with have become only more compelling. Again, like Paterson, it's got great leadership. Just as you have Mayor Sayegh here, Mayor Baraka is doing a tremendous job. It's a community on the rise. Its location is second to none. It's got a deep talent pool. And so there's lots of reasons. And by the way, again, like Paterson, Newark has it probably in the extreme. It's got the bones of a city that used to have 500,000 residents. It now has somewhere just under 300,000. So I think when you looked at a lot of the land use issues in Long Island City that really bedeviled that process, it's not as romantic as some of the other things that get talked about, but those are important issues. Newark doesn't have that issue. I know Mayor Baraka agrees with me that you want to attract investment. You want to attract new residents, more jobs, but you want to do it not at the expense of those who fought and stayed all these decades in a community like Paterson, a community like Newark. And the great news is Newark is big enough. It's got the bones to be able to accommodate that. Anybody else, please?
Just back to Amazon. I know you said they're obviously not looking.
Back to Amazon. We haven't left Amazon.
They're not looking right now, but do you still hold out hope that there's a chance they could come here?
Yeah, I don't, honestly, I have to take them at their word, although we are in communication with them. They said they would not reopen the HQ2 process. I just believe the story is so compelling, the New Jersey story broadly, the urban story in New Jersey, including right here, and in this particular case, the story in Newark is really compelling. I'll give you a statistic. Maybe all of you know this, but it's worth noting. New Jersey, not just Newark, New Jersey has the highest concentration of scientists and engineers per square mile in the world. In the world. We're the densest state in the nation. That's why I was with a bunch of transit workers this morning. We're going to fix NJ Transit if it kills me, which it might, but we're going to fix it. So being able to educated workforce, highly trained, being able to move people and things around, being located where we are, it's a compelling story. Sorry, Brett, before we go back to any other members of the press other than Brett, please, ma'am. I'll come back to you, Brett. Well, it's not my decision. The comptroller did the audit, and that's a decision that the comptroller would have to take. But we have set up a separate task force to sort of take the results of that audit and figure out what happened and what we can learn, most importantly, as Tim and his team, who are new over the past year, are putting in place the next generation. We want to learn what worked and what didn't work. Again, I repeat a couple of things I've said. Number one, I'm assuming overwhelmingly there were good actors here. Clearly something it was off key, but I think overwhelmingly there were good actors. And secondly, tax incentives play a role. Look at what we're talking about today. Imagine this street being, 5 years from now, being transformed. That will happen probably only with smart tax credits. My complaint is it just can't be first of all, we have to be accountable, transparent, but it has to be more than just a tax credit. The strategy has to be bigger. It has to be, what are you doing about public education, access to preschool, more access to community colleges? What are you doing about fixing NJ Transit? So tax incentives are in a sort of spectrum of a lot of different levers that you pull to rebuild the economy. Brent, please.
Two things, so I don't have to ask another question. One, is it time to rescind NDAs from the campaign and transition? And two, was the situation at your soccer team, Sky Blue, so dire that that's why you needed the First Lady to come in and run things, or they needed a more of a hands-on?
Are these on-topic questions? I didn't hear it. No, just campaigns the country over, my guess is the world over, have operated in very similar fashions to the way we operated, including NDAs, and I see no reason why they should operate otherwise. Tammy's a big, passionate soccer fan. The fact of the matter is both of us have day jobs. She works full-time for no salary, I might add, for the state. Our fellow owners are also full-time employees. We're the longest owners of a women's soccer team in the United States. We've poured our hearts and resources into this. We had a bad year. We had some challenges both on the field and off the field, and Tammy personally felt strongly that she wanted to get involved and help us as best we can more day-to-day manage it. Please.
On topic.
Please. God forbid.
Legacy buildings and legacy cities have legacy problems. And so this program is going to go a long way to develop financing opportunities, but developers are going to have challenges with environmental issues that they inherit, transportation issues because of the density and the existing grid. Will you consider identifying the sister departments of the state, such as DEP and DOT, liaisons, a tiger team, to help developers who receive these awards to bring their projects from a rendering to a review?
Yeah, I mean, we're already actually doing that in certain cases, and we in certain departments actually do that as a core habit, and we're trying to extend that. I'll give you an example. It's not related to Paterson. Wawa is building, I think, 50 or 70, I always forget which, stores in New Jersey, and they said, listen, we're happy to go through your regular process, but it would be really good if you could give us one point of contact that could help us across. That's a notion that we've talked to Andre about, something that we're very comfortable with. We are committed to getting transit fixed. We're not only a dense community in Paterson and Passaic County, a dense county, we're the densest state in the nation. So getting bus and rail transportation fixed is at the top of our list. One of the 5 tax credit families that Tim, of the next generation, that Tim is working on with the legislature is a new brownfields tax credit to get at the environmental challenges, which we need, and Congressman and I have spoken about that, which we need desperately. We obviously also continue to need our federal partners, and the Congressman keeps that process alive and well, dealing with matters of environmental damage. So the answer is all of the above. Yes, maybe 1 or 2 more, then we get a hop. Please. So number one, told as I was walking in. Secondly, told what you've just said, which is the state police is investigating it. I know nothing beyond that about the specifics. But if it is in fact, if it turns out to be true, it's despicable and completely and utterly unacceptable. Hate crime has no place in this state, in this country. And if it is the case, I am sure that law enforcement, beginning with the Attorney General, I don't want to speak for him, but will pursue this to the full extent of the law. But let there be no doubt, this is unambiguous. That sort of stuff has no place in the great state of New Jersey. Unbelievable. We got to go. So last one here.
Governor, I want your reaction to a study, a moving company, United Van Lines, did a study showing basically New Jersey led the nation with the most people moving out. In 2018, twice as many people moved out than moved in, 66% out, 33% in. What's your reaction to that? And what do you think? I know this could be a long-winded answer, but what do you think should be done to keep people here?
Not everybody uses a moving van, first of all. Listen, this state, contrary to the myths of folks, just wanted you to make sure you're paying attention. This state, contrary to folks who suggest otherwise, is actually growing in population. And so I just want to make sure that we all recognize that's a fact. It's growing at a very small rate. I'd like to see it growing at a healthier rate. We inherited a year and a month ago a complete fiscal mess, including property taxes that were choking people and all sorts of other challenges. We continue, by the way, last year under our administration, again, another little pesky fact, it was the smallest increase in property taxes on average statewide in the history of the state, 0.8%. Now, I'm not happy that it went up. I want it to come down. We're working aggressively. We've got 2 shared services czars. We're looking at everything. We're funding public education, which is a huge weapon toward property tax relief, because 53% of your property tax bill on average is public education. We continue to be a state of choice for that family that is still working and raising kids and want to put them through public education. We have one of the top 2 public education systems in America. It's a big driving reason why we got to get NJ Transit completely fixed, because folks are dropping their kids off and going to work. We need to keep more of our young people here, and you transform a street like this. You do that. You make college more affordable, which we're doing. You have more communities like Paterson where folks want to live and walk around and be in a sort of urban environment. You reboot an incubator startup technology culture, which you could see right on the street, Mayor, which we lost our way on in the past decade. All of that will conspire to get more young people either to stay here or come here. We have a different set of challenges with somebody who's retired, whose kids aren't in school anymore, and they own a home and they pay property taxes. That's why the homestead rebate matters. That's why we got to grow the economy, funding public education from the state so it takes some of the burden off of them. We'll never be the low-cost state to live in or do business, but we will, if it kills me, we will be again the good value for state, for a good value for money state. Okay, so I know I pay a premium to be there, but I get a rich basket of stuff back. Most importantly, education, quality of life, safety, security, an environment that you want to live in and raise your kids. I want to thank again the mayor for everything you do and the members of council, the freeholders. Congressman, thank you so much. The Rockin' 35th, thank you all. Tim, thank you. Bob, you're as good a host as you've always been. Thank you all very much.
Yes.
I saw that, man. I gave you huge shout outs on social.